Hi guys, it's Gwen here, and I'm so excited to show you the goodies that are inside of the January 2026 Crafters Crate. When you open it up, you'll notice that things look a little bit different, and there's something in there that hasn't been there before. But we're going to go over all of that. First and foremost, you might notice that our little tool bag is looking a little slim this month. There's good reason for that. Inside of here, we'll go over the supplies that are inside of that in just a moment, but this is where you're going to find your note about this month's project. Of course, you're going to find your kit itself, which is going to be all wrapped up and ready for you. But if you've gotten a box from us before, you're going to notice there's this little canvas bag that definitely has some goodies in there, and we're going to go over all of that right now. Let's sneak this guy off of here. If you are a first-time subscriber, you're going to get one of these, as well as every January we're going to refresh what is in this bag. What we're finding is there are several tools and pieces that we use month after month after month for our subscription box, and it just made sense to pack them all into one handy-dandy little bag here that we can send out at the start of the year to kind of start us off fresh. So let's go over what all is in there. We're going to have 3 of these 2-ounce bottles. One is going to have white paint. One has stain, and it's actually this early American stain that's on the background of this sign here, and a bottle of black. These are the colors that we feel like we were sending out every single box anyway, so why not pack them into a bigger bottle so you guys have plenty of them for the entire year to use. You also have, on the topic of bigger bottles, a bigger bottle of glue. This is the wood glue we use for all of our projects. So rather than those little itty teeny tiny bottles every month, we are going to send you one of these guys, and this is going to be plenty to get us through all of this year's Crafters Crate projects. You also have a collection of brushes in here that we'll use for different things. We've got the 1-inch flat brush and a 1-inch foam brush. These are great for backgrounds and your big areas to paint. Both of these are easy to rinse out and reuse. If you like to craft and you really like foam brushes, these are my favorite. They have a plastic handle instead of a wooden handle. So I've been able to leave these in water for a few days at a time and still rinse them out, and the handle doesn't get all funky. These we get from Michaels. So if you are on the hunt for plastic handled foam brushes, Michaels is your friend. And we swear by them in the studio. So this is our 1-inch chip brush. We use this for distressing, texture, paint splatter. There's a bunch of different uses for this, but he's one of our favorite brushes. In fact, we have an entire wall dedicated to these if you've ever been in our studio. We have a flat and a liner brush with the blue handles. These are our go-to ones that we use all the time. This one's great for filling in smaller areas or blending things. This, of course, is great for more line work and that sort of stuff, or little areas. And all the way down to our teeny tinies, these are the Ninja brushes. These guys have just a little plastic cap on them to help with their bristles, but these are great for fine lines, little itty bitty touch up, everything in between. But we love these little itty guys. So you guys got a pair of those. And last but not least, the other weird tool that's in there is this little silver guy that actually opens up until I start throwing things. Don't mind me. Oh no, I threw it. Safe. You're gonna have this little piece that's gonna come out of there, and it's got a point on it because when we screw these pieces all back together, if I do it in the right order, I did mine backwards. Flip this piece around, put this piece in there. You get it all the right way. You've got now a little weeding tool. So when we're using stencils, vinyl, anything like that, this is fantastic for that. It's really good for unclogging glue and paint bottles as well. But primarily it's going to be a stencil weeding tool for us. We're not going to be using this one today, but I wanted to make sure you guys had it in your little tool bags. So I'm going to stick that part in there. Pointy part goes into there to keep us nice and safe, so we're not poking our fingers on anything in there, and then into there. So I'm going to put some of this stuff back into our bag. Okay, so now we'll go over what is in our smaller bag this time. Like I said, most of our supplies are in this canvas bag, so it's going to cover most of our brushes, our tools, that sort of thing. And then instead, our small bags this year will have our note and any of our fancy embellishments and accent colors. So this month, it does have our note in there that has your new discount code. As a member, you do get 10% off any of our other projects, our workshops, all that. Get all the pieces out of here. So that's got all that information on there. You're gonna find some fun little fabric scraps that we're gonna use to make an embellishment for our project. I've got 3 different color ribbon pieces, and we can mix and match these. We also have a little piece of bric-a-brac that's got the little pom-poms on it that's just something fun. We're gonna find a pipe cleaner piece, and that is gonna be what we're gonna use to assemble our bow. I promise it's an easy one. And then you're gonna find 3 accent paint colors. I've got a red, a traditional pink, and more of like a dusty rose, which is my personal favorite for Valentine's Day. And of course, you're gonna have your project. But let's take a peek and see what exactly our project is going to make. Like I said, this dusty rose color is my personal favorite for Valentine's Day. So we got this kind of palette style heart. It says love on it. And then of course we're gonna make a fun raggy bow embellishment to go on there. This is a piece that obviously can be perfect for Valentine's Day, but it can also look really cute on a shelf with, family photos, wedding photos. It can be a sweet gift for somebody's wedding. Just some fun little stuff on there, all depending upon how you paint it and what kind of style you go for. I really like the rustic distressed colors like this, where I used the stain on the background. I did the dusty rose with a little bit of white along the edge, and then of course I did my lettering in white. And it's hard to see, but if you look really close, I took a little bit of this stain on my flat brush and just kind of flicked it over top of some of my love just to kind of distress it a bit, and then of course put my bow on here. We are going to paint one today that's a little bit more traditional Valentine's Day colors. We're going to use red, black, and white, just to kind of give you guys a different look of what this can look like. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy this project and your fun supplies just as much as we did putting it all together. All right, so let's get all of our pieces kind of sorted out here. We're going to take the wrapping off of our kit. Get all of this peeled off of here. I like to keep the labels as something I can look back at too, so I try to be careful with them. They are stickers, you can kind of pull them off. But I'm going to separate my pieces here, and I'm going to start with our background section. I'm going to use the foam brush and a little bit of black paint. I'm going to cheat and put it right onto this board and kind of drag it to the outside edges. This middle part of the heart does not have to be painted, so you don't have to worry about covering all of that because we're going to put something right over top of it. But I'll add a little bit more paint as I go and just kind of drag it out. I try not to put paint on too heavy, but get it all covered. I always find it funny that black needs more than one coat, but sometimes it just does. So after this one dries, I may have to go back in and add a second coat, and that just happens sometimes. But if you like a more distressed look, sometimes having that one coat is nice too. So totally up to you. A little bit more down here. And get it all filled in. The middle of this looks so messy, but it's okay because we're going to cover it up. Get that filled in. All right. I'm just kind of smoothing the paint out a little bit so it dries nice and even, and I will set that aside. Now I'm going to paint the base black as well. You of course could do different colors on there, totally up to you. But I'm just coating the top part of it. I try not to get too much paint into the actual crack part, and for this one, just because of the way it's going to set, I am going to paint the sides black. They're pretty dark already, but adding that little black edge I think is just going to make it look really nice. Let's go over top of all of this. And my edges. It doesn't take much to cover the edges, especially if you're going black. Now, if you're going for a white base and you want your edges to be white, you might have to do a few coats because the burn mark from the laser definitely changes that color a little bit. The stain, I didn't do anything to my edges because it kind of already matched. All right, so for our heart, I'm going to do my heart in red. I'm getting just a little bit of water on my brush. It helps kind of move the paint around, and I'm going to cover this whole thing. In retrospect, I probably could have used my big 1-inch flat brush and done this a little bit faster, but retrospect. So yeah, I'm using just this little smaller flat brush to cover it all up, and I am keeping a little bit of water on my brush. It just helps the paint move more. There's something about the color red. There's like 4 colors I feel painting anytime it tends to get kind of chunky. Red is one of them, purple is one of them, orange, and I feel like I'm missing one. But there's another color. But I feel like when I paint it, it just, if I don't have a good flow with it, it gets chunky and funky and yeah. But red for Valentine's Day just seemed to fit. So get this all filled in. There we go. And I'm going to let this dry. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. But I'm going to switch and do my love, which I am painting white. So I'm rinsing my little tiny flat brush out really, really good. And I'm going to cheat and put a little dot of paint right there. You could obviously use paper towel, paper plate, or you know, a paint palette, whatever, to do this part. But I'm just painting my letters. And what I'm trying to do is kind of paint towards my edge. So I kind of put my paint to start in the middle and work towards the edge. That helps for me getting a lot of paint buildup on the edges of my piece, so I don't get a lot of it on the sides. I will tell you right now, I do have paint on the sides and it just kind of happens. But there we go. That's all filled in. Now we're going to come back to this. So I'm rinsing my brush out again, getting some water on it, and I'm going to start by adding kind of a layer of red, just so I've got some wet paint to work with. And now this time I'm going to get my red and just a tiny bit of white. I mean, we're talking itty bitty bit. And it seems to help with coverage. Honestly, you can use just about any of the colors you wanted. If you wanted to use a little tiny bit of the pink, you're going to get a little bit rosier red, but it's going to blend in. And there's something about when you layer two colors together that it fills in nicely. I don't know the science behind that. I'm sure there is. But I'm just going back over the whole thing with red and just a teeny tiny touch of white. And I do have some water on my brush. So I'm just filling it in so I get a good solid coat of paint on there. We've been playing around with that in the studio, adding kind of two colors together sometimes when we paint, and it seems to cover really nice. So get the rest of this filled in here. There we go. And then our red part will be done, but I am still going to add just a little bit more to this heart when we're closer to the end. All right, a little bit more on the edge. Perfect. So let's set that aside. We're going to let it dry before we do this last part. All right. Now we're going to play with our ribbon. So there's a couple different ways you can make this bow. I'll show you the way that I'm not going to do it first, and then we'll go into the way I'm going to. Now it's up to you. You choose which colors you want to play with. I'm going to do the kind of really light pink with polka dots, the red polka dot, and the bric-a-brac piece. Layer them all together. So you want to layer them in kind of opposite order, facing down, and then you're going to make this kind of X shape with the piece in the back, and then you would scrunch the middle and put your pipe cleaner around that part. So that's one way to layer a bow. For some ribbons, I like that. For this one, it's not my favorite. So we're going to do it differently. Instead, we're going to do them kind of individually and make it stacked. Oops. All right. This I have, this ribbon is facing me, but the top part, kind of the top of the memorial ribbon shape, is face down. So the flaps, the tails are facing me. It's a little easier to see on this one. So I'm just creating essentially memorial ribbon on top of memorial ribbon that we're going to scrunch in the middle. And same with this. We're going to crisscross the bottoms, scrunch the top down. So now I've got a stack instead of them all layered together. And I'm going to take my pipe cleaner, fold it, stick it through the middle here. I'm going to pull all my ribbon forward, and I'm going to tightly twist this, and then just kind of tuck my extra pipe cleaner tails back there. We're going to use that as a base to glue our bow on later, so I'm not going to snip the excess. But then I can kind of play around pulling with the tails and the loops, sort of getting a look that I like. Now remember, this is forgiving. If you want thinner pieces or wider pieces, you can clip it, and you can put this on your piece wherever you want to. But let's finish up this heart. Got just a tiny bit of white on my brush, and I'm just dusting the edge, just a little tiny bit, to create sort of a highlight around my heart. I have very little paint on my brush, and I'm just kind of dragging it right along the edge. I'm gonna go around the whole entire heart, adding that little tiny highlight. It just kind of makes it pop and gives it another little bit of dimension without having to have any really super fancy art skills. Put that on there. Now, if I wanted to, I could go through with the back end of this and add polka dots. You look, there's a little tiny dot right there. Could also use the back end of this paintbrush, which is round, to make a bigger polka dot. I should need a little more paint. All right, I could use the back end of that to do a much bigger polka dot, and I could polka dot the whole background. You could add stripes. You could add a stencil to the back end, whatever you wanted to. I'm not gonna go crazy on this one. We're gonna keep it a little bit simple. But it could be fun. If you like more whimsical, that could be super cute. If you look, there's these little score lines to add to show you where to glue this guy down. Usually I put my dots of glue on the back of the thing I'm gonna glue down, but in this case, it's really easy to follow along where it's supposed to go. So I'm gonna go just around this edge, a little bit in the middle. That's plenty of glue to hold this piece together. I'm gonna set this down. I'm gonna check it from some different angles to see which way I need to scooch my heart. And then I'm going to decide on, so this is the placement that I like, but you could easily change things around. Put your bow at the bottom. If you are going to put it on the bottom, put your base on to figure out where exactly that's going to be covered, to kind of get a feel for where your bow could sit. But you could tuck it down at the bottom and do it like that. That'd be really cute too. You could put it over opposite of how I have it. I don't know. I like this placement, and so this is what we're going to go with, but you could totally play around with where you put things down. This one I tried to leave a little more open-ended. If we have individual letters, I always score them into place so they're easy to line up, but this one definitely has some fun potential. So I'm tugging on my bow just a little. I'm going to add my glue, which I'm using way more than what I usually use for wood pieces, but this is a little different. I'm going to hold it down, fluff my bow just a little bit, and then I'm gonna let it sit and add my glue to the back end of my love. I'm just putting little dots of glue. It doesn't need a whole lot to hold it on place there. I'm gonna set this guy down. And with it being wood glue, you do get a little bit of give, so you can adjust it as needed. But now we just wait for it to dry. And there you have it. There is our more red, black, and white traditional Valentine's Day bold kind of colors. I do think this could have been super cute if I had taken the paintbrush and done polka dots in the background here, but I didn't want to make it too busy. But you can kind of sort of play around with that. I personally do not glue my bases in place. I like to have them separate because when I go to pack this away, it's really easy to lay it down flat, or even lay this part flat across here, and then I don't have any kind of odd shapes to work around. If you want to glue it in, you definitely can. But that's why you'll find my bases are almost never glued into place. But there's that one. Grab this one. And here is my original. So same project, two very different looks, two different styles. Just kind of depends on which one you prefer to make. I hope you guys enjoyed this box, and I can't wait to show you what we have planned for March. I think it's going to be a really fun project, and I'm pretty excited about it. So you guys will see you soon.